you look amazing with red hair.
Thank you.
It
And
really
you do
suits
too.
Thank you. I think that Damsel also breaks the mold of traditional princesses in fairy tales. So I was wondering, do you have like a character or someone that you admire the most while you were growing up or nowadays that breaks the mold?
That's a good question. I would say, you know what? I love Mad Max. I love Charlize Theron in Mad Max. She's just not your typical warrior.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. And I channeled her in a lot of projects I've done.
And neither Elodie, she's not the typical princess.
No, definitely not.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Think about the conventional fairy tales that we grew up with. They're really dark, right?
Yes.
This one's dark, but there's something very modernized in Damsel, and that was intentional to basically attract a new audience, which is this generation, that Millie Bobby Brown is a part of that generation.
I was wondering if Elodie could have a conversation with Enola and Eleven, what would you say?
What do they talk to each other about? Oh, gosh. I mean, they're all trying to fight for something. I think 11 is trying to fight for her friends and herself. And I think Enola is trying to fight for her freedom and injustice, and society is, you know, pushing back on that. And Elodie's fighting a dragon. So yeah,
And that's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. So I would say, yeah, they have a lot to talk about.
I think that the transition to adulthood is a very lonely experience. And what I really love about Damsel is that it actually reflects what it means to become an adult through the arc of a princess becoming a warrior. So would you say that Damsel is one of the few fairy tales that actually discusses what it means to grow up?
That's actually a great answer for it, yeah. And I think that's why Juan Carlos wanted to make this particular movie, is for that reason, is to show it's a survival story, and you're on the journey with her to finally receive justice in the end.
Completamente. O sea, yo creo que cualquier cuento clásico que realmente nos ha dejado huella, habla en el fondo de un crecimiento, ¿no? Habla de una transformación, ¿no? Que tiene que ver siempre con una gran decepción y provoca en primer lugar y en primer término lo que va a ser un viaje de transformación que se inicia en esa especie de historia iniciática que tiene Elodie en esas cuevas y donde va a descubrir un ser mitológico extraordinario, que es este dragón, que realmente la va a confrontar con esta soledad, como muy bien apuntas, ¿no? Y creo que la libertad que ella consigue al final es la recompensa por la soledad que ha sufrido y ha padecido, ¿no? Pero es una soledad que yo creo que merece la pena, porque realmente te convierte en alguien mucho mejor y en alguien realmente que puede ser dueño de su destino, ¿no? Y esto es un poco lo que le pasa a Elodie al final de la historia, ¿no? Ahora ella por fin puede decidir su destino.
You know nothing of our story. This is the end of your story.
I found a fairy tale interesting when the villains have a higher purpose, you know? What would you say are the higher purposes of your character?
Well, I mean, I guess her intention is to fulfill tradition, and that is to maintain this kingdom. You have to do something very immoral. But she would never see that as immoral. It's a fact of life that has to transpire to be able to hold her family together.
In this movie, and maybe in many fairy tales, the real dragon mother is greed and power. What's your take on about that?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting and an interesting take. I think what's so cool about this movie, though, is that it's so original that, you know, JC truly had a vision on what he wanted. So whatever you expect going into it, that the dragon or any of the characters are, it really isn't like what you seem, you know, and what you think. I think it's like, I don't know, it definitely takes you on a ride.
But if you think about it, it's all for a good cause. The dragon has a very valid cause, and so does the queen.
Yes.
So what does that do to the story?